Hello friends, it's Allison Vanderslice and thank you for joining me in another video. Today I'm going to be making a Thinking of You card that is going to be featuring a pretty big cat stamp that I have. Here I'm going through a time lapse of using my journal to create a card sketch and write out some ideas of what I think I would like to use. This is also useful because I'm going to be using a technique that I haven't really done before, which some of you might know as swinking, I believe, where we take an ink pad and we swipe it across the page. Here I have a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece of white cardstock, and I am going to place a cat stamp on top of it where I think I would like it positioned in the end. I'm also going to place my sentiment stamp on there as well, and this says Thinking of You. I'm not going to stamp the Thinking of You actually on the card front like I will the cats, but I still wanted to see where I would want it. I'm going to take a light brown ink pad and I'm going to swipe it across the bottom. This is what the swinking is. This is just going to give a little sandy or a beachy type vibe to our card front. Next, I'm taking a piece of scrap paper and I'm going to take my scissors and just cut a wavy line throughout it so that way I can create a cloud-like effect for a little stencil later for the top of our card. I'm laying down just a scrap paper, one that I also tested some swinking out and some marker on top of earlier, and I'm going to test out if I like this effect or not. I'm going to be using the Misty Moonlight Stampin' Spot from a Paper Pumpkin subscription box that I had. And this is a little bit dark, so I just want to make sure I tap off the excess. And here you see me tapping off and then trying to ink blend it across the top. And that's what the wave pattern would look like. Of course, I knew I was going to have an issue with that dot from the scrapbook paper, so I chopped it off. To give it a more cloud-like effect, I'm going to just push it over and have different waves touch at different points, and also make sure I'm doing different types of ink blending levels, so dark or light. I'm feeling brave, so I went to the card front and I started doing my ink blending. Again, same process. I'll tap it off and go across, bring down the stencil a little bit, and then do another layer of ink blending, and I'll do that 3 or 4 times. To blend the horizon line, I'm going to turn over the stencil and I'm going to use the flat edge and do another line of blending. I didn't go down far enough, so I'm just going to go ahead and bring it down a little bit further and do another level of ink blending, and I'm doing it very lightly here. Going to wipe off the excess ink and close up my ink pad, and there is our card front. I'm going to be getting out my Stampin' platform now from Stampin' Up, and I'm going to place my card front on the corner. Now I want to use my platform because this is a bigger, more intricate stamp that I'm used to working with, and I want to make sure that I get a clear image. I'm just positioning the cats where I think I would like them. I thought I wanted them lower, but then I started moving them up because I realized I needed to make the card front a little bit smaller to add a border to the outside. I'm going to use the VersaFine black ink and then clear embossing powder. Since I'm using the embossing powder, I'm going to use my anti-static powder tool, or I think they call it the embossing buddy from Stampin' Up. After I do that on the card front, I'm going to ink up my stamp and then press down on the platform. And then here you can see I did not get a clear stamp, so I'm going to ink it up again and then make sure it's back up in the corner, and then I can press down. This will hopefully give me a clearer image. Now that one all the way on the right still didn't stamp well, so I'm just going to press down without re-inking it a couple times just to make sure I get it down. I liked how that turned out. I'm going to remove it from the stamping platform and then put the clear embossing powder on top of it. I'll dump off the excess embossing powder. After that, I'm going to put the rest of that powder back into the container and close it up because we don't need it flying all over the place. I'm going to then heat up my heat tool and then start heat embossing. And there's our heat embossed cats. Now I'm going through and trying to figure out what I would like to do with that thinking of you sentiment. I'm going to use one of my circles from my stacked die set that I have. And this has a stitching pattern on it, so you will get a little stitched edge. I'm going to put that on a scrap piece of paper and run that through my die cut machine. I'm going to bring out my stamping platform just to use the foam when I am stamping my sentiment. Right now I'm also showing you the little peel that I had on my acrylic block for who knows how long. I'm finally able to get those off. It's like a brand new block. It's pretty awesome actually. I'm going to attach the sentiment stamp to the acrylic block. I will use my anti-static powder tool and put that onto the circle die cut. I will do the black ink again, put down the ink onto the die cut, close up my ink pad, and then put the clear embossing powder on top and then heat set it as well. Same process as before. This time, because it is a smaller image, I am going to use my reversible tweezers to hold it so that way I don't burn my fingers while I am heat setting it. To give the sentiment a little bit more of a pop, I'm going to get out a finger dauber and I will use that Misty Moonlight again, going around the outside of the sentiment circle. Earlier I mentioned about adding a border to this card front, so I'm going to put a ruler on the side of it and then I'm going to tear the edge. This is going to give me a deckled edge. I like using the ruler because it gives me more of a guide and it makes me feel safer and more confident when I am tearing my card front that I just made and worked hard on. The card base is this light blue pre-made card base that I had in a set from Amazon. This also comes with a matching blue envelope. You can see me putting this sentiment on and I still feel like it needed something, so I'm going to go through and try to find some matching embroidery thread. So I'm going through and I'm going to pick out a brown, a bluish silver color, and then a white. I'm going to attach the card front to the card base, so I'm going to just use some tear tape with that. I'm going to put it along the edges, I'll remove the backing, and then adhere it to the card front. This card I'm making for a teacher friend who will be giving it to their favorite weatherman in our area. He had to have surgery on his heart and she wanted to send him a get well card, and actually she got a shirt and a card for her class to give him as well, which I thought was really sweet. So he really likes cats and of course weather, so that's why I made the card like this for him. I'm going to go through with the thread now and just cut off a little bit from each color. After I get the thread cut off, I will then peel apart some of the thread so that way there are more thread pieces from each color. So instead of one of each color, I am making 3 strands of each color by peeling them apart. This will just give a little bit more volume and texture to the card without having to use so much thread. I'm going to take another small piece of the tear tape and put that on the back of the sentiment. I'll remove the backing and then just looking at where the placement will be again, I will put the thread on a diagonal going across. Kind of crisscrossing them, not making them all the same, again just to give more texture and dynamic to the front of the card. I put another piece of tear tape down and then was about to remove the backing, but then thought I should probably put this up on some foam squares. So that's what I did. I added the foam squares to the back of it, I removed the backing, and then adhere the sentiment to the front of the card. I moved the thread around a little bit just to see where I liked it and make sure it was in a good placement. I trimmed up a couple of them, and there is our final card. Thank you again so much for joining me in today's video. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you like this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up, and if you like my content, feel free to subscribe. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye.